Right. Last time, we defined what a contract of partnership is, and we also took pains to outline what exactly is it that makes a partnership entity. We distinguished between partnership, the agreement, and then partnership, the business enterprise. Pagkatapos nun, pinasadahan natin yung characteristics of a partnership. Now that we have some sort of a general idea as to what makes a partnership, now we will be moving forward to how exactly do we determine if a partnership exists. That's our topic number 1. Article 1769 provides us with a list, a laundry list of sorts. Kung paano natin malalaman kung yung isang agreement or perhaps a business arrangement that we are confronted with is a partnership or is it something else? Kasi basically, when we are confronted with a question of is this group or is this set up a partnership? Normally, when we talk about any other contract, it's just as easy as determining if all of the elements or all of the characteristics are present. Kapag contract of sale, titignan natin, do we have a seller or vendor? Do we have a buyer or vendee? What is the subject matter covered by the contract? Is there a written agreement? Diba? There are things that we have to look at. No? Kasi diba, when we deal with contracts of sale, there is a threshold value na once the value or the price or the cost of the object reaches that value or exceeds that threshold, kailangan in writing siya in compliance with, this is something that you've learned in your oblicon, I hope, yung statute of frauds. Diba? In order for the contract to be enforceable as against third persons. Things like that. Titignan mo lang siya. You have a kind of mental checklist. However, partnership is not that easy. There are situations where the agreement entered into by the parties has terms that are ambiguous and susceptible to different interpretations. Maybe the parties did not have enough foresight to reduce their agreement in writing. Kasi diba, as we have learned back in our prelims, there are times na hindi naman kinakailangang in writing ang isang contract of partnership. Hindi ba? It is only when real property is contributed to the partnership that an inventory has to be done. And a written contract submitted to the Securities and Exchange Commission or the SEC. Hindi ba? I hope you still remember that. Sometimes, verbal lang yung agreement. And as a result, any single one of the contracting parties, the so-called partners, may offhandedly dispute any previously agreed stipulation. Kasi wala namang in writing, walang nakasulat. So napakadaling sabihin na, meron ba tayong napag-usapan o meron ba tayong napagkasunduang ganito? Diba? Outrightly even denying that there is such an agreement altogether. Now, Article 1769 rather, was written by the Code Commission precisely for this kind of situation. Now we are looking at rule number 1, no? 1769 sub-item 1. Ang sabi dito, persons who are not partners as to each other are not partners as to third persons. Now, of course, the general rule here is that a partnership can never exist as to third persons being non-partners, non-parties to the contract, mga bystanders na hindi privy doon sa agreement. If there is no contract of partnership to begin with. Pag sinabi ni A at ni B ng tahasan na hindi sila partners, edi it's as simple as that. They are not partners because they said so. All right? That's the encapsulation, so to speak, of the rule. If we have persons who tell us that they are not partners as to each other, the consequence is that they are also not partners as to third persons, as to us who are bystanders, who are not parties to their contract, if any. So pag sinabi nilang hindi sila mag-partners, so edi hindi sila mag-partners, ganun lang yun kasimple. Now, of course, there is an exception to this rule. Yung napag-aralan natin before, partnership by estoppel, by way of refresher. If one person makes a representation na isa siyang partner as against a third person na katransaction niya, and the actual partners did not say anything, did not dispute the allegations of this person na sinasabi niya na I am a partner. So they did nothing to contest that misrepresentation. Later on, hindi nila pwedeng questionin o i-dispute or i-put away yung allegation na yun. They had the opportunity to say na this person, for example, Mr. X, is not our partner. Wala na silang pwedeng sabihin gano'n, na nahimik sila no? At the very first instance that they could have complained, that they could have contested what was being said, but they did not. And therefore, they are estopped. And now, this Mr. X who did this misrepresentation is now their partner by estoppel. The partners are now estopped from contesting the truthfulness or from saying that this statement is false or is misleading. So yan ang exception. Again, as a general rule, when two people say that they are not partners, then we, third persons, non-parties, people who are not privy, we are bound by that. Kapag sinabi nilang hindi sila partners, then yes, they are not partners. Except in situations kung saan pumapasok yung ating rule on partnership by estoppel. Let us move forward to rule number 2. Co-ownership or co-possession alone will not establish the existence of a partnership. Kasi di ba, ano ang premise nito? There are certain characteristics, there are certain aspects of a contract of partnership na pag nakita natin, there is a presumption in our minds na there might be a partnership contract. There might be a partnership entity. Di ba? Kapag meron tayong nakikita na, oh, this looks somewhat like delectus personae. The relationship between or among the contracting parties is imbued with trust and confidence. O hindi ba ang delectus personae, that is a core characteristic of a partnership. So if we see that, there is already a presumption boiling over in our minds na, hey, more likely than not, the contract or agreement that we have right in our hands is a contract of partnership. That the business setup that these people have adopted is a partnership entity. Ang co-ownership, hindi ganun. Hindi porke merong co-ownership relation or co-possession among a set number of persons or parties, hindi ibig sabihin nun may partnership na. Now, just to be clear, let us first define what co-ownership or co-possession is. There is co-ownership whenever the ownership, or in case of co-possession, well, possession of an undivided thing or right belongs to different persons. That is a definition propounded under Article 484 of the New Civil Code. Now, clear to us, I hope it is also clear to you, that co-ownership, again, by itself, co-ownership lang. The presence of co-ownership does not mean that there is a partnership, because co-ownership as a property relation can subsist on its own. Now, let me give you 2 examples. 5 magkakapatid. Mayayaman yung kanilang mga magulang. So, maraming properties na pagmamayari. Ekta-ektaryang lupa, mga bahay, mga commercial buildings, mga resort. At dahil mayayaman nga and engaged in various businesses, labas-masok ng bansa. They always travel. Now one day, Yung parents ay lumipad papunta nga Bahamas. No? Unfortunately, the plane they were in crashed. There were no survivors. Naiwang ulila itong 5 magkakapatid. According to our law on succession, kapag gano'n ang nangyari, when a person dies at the moment of their death, all of their properties will be transferred by operation of law to their heir or heirs kung marami. At kapag ang isang magulang ay sumakabilang buhay, 2 lang naman ang posibleng tagapagmana na immediate, no? Yung surviving spouse, so basically, sabihin natin si lalaki ang namatay. Ang kanyang tagapagmana na automatic ay yung kanyang naiwang asawa. Kung merong naiwang anak, yung asawa at anak ang magmamana. Now, kung pareho, no, if both parents pass away at ang naiwan children, yung mga anak, sila ang mga solo heredero o heredera. Dito sa example natin, both parents passed away because they figured in a plane crash, leaving all of their properties to the 5 children. All right? Following me so far? Now, at that point in time, at the moment of the parent's death, hindi pa nila pwedeng paghati-hatian itong 5 anak. Yung mga properties, hindi pa nila pwedeng sabihin na, sa akin itong lupa sa Laguna. Sasabihin ng isa, sa akin naman itong resort sa Palawan. Hindi nila pwedeng gawin yun. Because there is a procedure under the law which they should follow in order for them to be able to partition the properties. Kung merong last will and testament, kung saan merong nakalagay na para sa aking anak, itong lupain sa Laguna. Para naman dito sa isa ko pang anak, yung resort sa Palawan. Ngayon, para dun sa isa ko pang anak, yung aming commercial building sa Quezon City. Now, of course, as much as possible, the law will honor the intent, no, the will of the deceased person. Kasi kung gusto nung namayapang tao na sa ganitong tao mapupunta sa kanyang anak, no, sa isa sa kanyang mga anak mapupunta itong certain property na to, as much as possible, i-honor yan, susundin yan. Pero hindi niya yun makukuha kaagad. It will go through, no, a somewhat protracted, somewhat long procedure. Dadaan pa yan sa korte. Now, in the meantime, habang dumadaan yan sa court proceedings, sa tinatawag nating probate and settlement proceedings in succession, while undergoing all that, no, undergoing that rigorous process, the estate, yan yung tinatawag natin dun sa, that is our collective term for all of the properties, the assets left by a deceased person. The estate is owned by the heirs in common. Yang kabuuan na yan, no, that aggregate of all of the properties, they are owned, dito sa ating example, by the 5 children. They co-own that property. Now, second example, a more simple one. 3 friends, no? Hindi naman talaga mga yayamanin. Sakto lang, lower middle class kids. Now, these 3 kids are bookish, which is a good quality to have. You always read whenever you can. That is the best way to learn other than experiencing things. Bilang mga bookish nga itong mga bata, and they want to read more and more, ngayon nandoon sila sa phase ng kanilang kabataan na gusto nila ng mga fantasy stories, fantasy novels. Because, you know, fantasy literature is great. It It gives us a great avenue to escape from the boredom, the ennui of reality. So, gusto nila ng mga fantasy novels. Ngayon, nandoon sila sa phase nga ng kanilang kabataan na, oh, we want to read Harry Potter from books 1 to 7. 7, di ba? From Sorcerer's Stone to the Half-Blood Prince, if I remember correctly. Sabi nila, bili tayo ng isang buong book set para hindi na isa-isa, isang bagsakan na all 7 books. Kasi pwede yun. And apparently, mas mura if you buy the set as opposed to just buying individual books. Ngayon, itong ating tatlong mga batang magkakaibigan na to, they pulled together their money, no? With the purpose of finding an online seller of books and then buying this book set that they want. Now they managed to find one, and in the end, they were able to buy the book set. Now they co-own that book set, these 3 kids, no? Sa kanilang tatlo yon. Dahil pinagpatak-patak nila yung pinambayad doon. They own all 7 books in common. Can we really say that they are partners? Of course not. They did not pull together their money for purposes of engaging in business. Can we really say na yung pagkuha nila ng libro nila, that is a form of profit? Or, well, in the language of taxation, can we treat that as income? Refresher ulit. What is income for taxation purposes? Income is the flow of wealth. Diba? All flow, basically income is the flow of wealth other than, diba? Other than the amount that you have invested. All right? Other than the mere return of capital. So that's income. Income is the flow of wealth other than the mere return of capital, other than the mere return of investment. ROI lang yung libro. Tumubo ba sila nung bumili sila ng libro? There is no income. There is no profit. So where is the partnership? There is no partnership. But certainly there is a co-ownership because the 3 kids own the book set in common. Ganon din dun sa ating example kanina. Doon sa 5 magkakapatid na nagmana ng ekta-ektaryang lupa at sangkaterbang properties. Is there partnership there? At that point in time, hindi natin sure if all of those properties earn some kind of profit. And clearly, no, masasabi ba natin na itong 5 magkakapatid na to, they were able to pull together resources for the pursuit of a business endeavor? Definitely not. Nung namatay ang kanilang mga magulang, automatically, by mere operation of law, sila na yung may-ari ng lahat ng mga properties na naiwan ng kanilang parents. Definitely, without any doubt, walang partnership. But there is co-ownership. Okay? So co-ownership, again, let me reiterate, as a property relation, co-ownership can stand on its own. So co-ownership alone does not establish the existence of a partnership. Remember that when we talk about partnerships, the things that set a partnership apart from any other kind of business relation, from any other contract, at least the contracts defined under our new civil code, are these, no? Number 1, at the center of a partnership is a business activity. As a rule, di ba? Our well-settled rule is that partnerships are organized for business. Pinapasok mo itong tipo ng kontrata na to kasi gusto mong magnegosyo. Gusto mong kumita. Even if, di ba, napag-usapan natin noong prelims na there might be an altruistic purpose for the existence of a partnership. Meron kang advocacy, meron kang gustong patunayan. O siguro, like in my example, where the partnership business is involved sa pag-i-sculpt ng mga estatwa ng mga santo, ng mga anghel, at ang clientele mga simbahan, mga parokya, mga diocese, no? There is an element of faith, of worship. Pero still, this is a for-profit endeavor. It's not a charity. So that is the first thing that sets partnership apart. At its heart is a business activity. Now, what is the purpose of that business activity? This is the second thing that separates partnership from any other kind of contract under the code. The acquisition of profit. Again, pagsamahin natin yung dalawa sa Tagalog, pumapasok ka sa partnership para mag-business. At bakit mo gustong mag-business in the first place? Kasi gusto mong kumita ng pera. Co-ownership, sa partnership, yung co-ownership ng mga partners, as well as the partnership kasi, what did we learn last time? A partnership has a separate and distinct judicial or juridical personality. Person din yan. No? So, if you are 3 partners forming a partnership, in effect, 4 kayo. 4 kayong persons, 4 kayong tao. You have 3 natural persons, the 3 partners, and the 4th person, the partnership. So co-ownership of the partners and the partnership vis-a-vis the partnership property and assets. Incidental lang yan dito sa dalawang purpose. Yung co-ownership, hindi yan yung be-all and all. Nagkataon lang, no? Nagkataon lang na nag-pool together kayo ng resources kasi gusto ninyong mag-business. At kaya ninyo gusto mag-business, kasi gusto ninyong kumita. Co-ownership, you know, in the vernacular, pwede nating sabihin na latak lang yan. Icing lang yan dun sa figurative cake. Now, let us move forward to rule number 3. Sharing of gross returns is not even presumptive evidence of partnership. All right? Why so? Hindi ba, may isip ninyo, hindi ba ito na yung point dapat behind the formation and existence of a partnership? Because you want your money to be able to earn, and then the earnings to return to you. That is the point of pooling your assets together, hindi ba? That is why you put your money, your property, your industry into a common fund. Kasi gusto mo ng return of your investment. But again, no, we have to be technical here. You see, hindi lang naman mere ROI ang punto ng partnership. As we will learn a bit later on, because we will be discussing the technicalities of it, ang partnership ay parang kasal. For richer or for poorer. For better or for worse. How does that translate to the law applicable to partnership? Simple. When a partnership earns, when money returns to the partnership in the exercise of the business of the partnership, hindi siya diretso babalik sa partners. Because, you know, a partnership also incurs debts. No? Ang partnership ay hindi lang nagbebenta o nag-o-offer ng service. If a partnership is dependent upon a certain establishment, you have to spend for the upkeep. Kung ang partnership ay nag-ooperate ng barbershop, kailangan mong gumastos, no? Kailangan mong gumastos to maintain the space, no, that the barbershop is renting. Kailangan magbayad ng kuryente, kailangan magbayad ng tubig. Kung meron kayong TV, no? Kung meron kayong TV doon, cable TV, para ma-entertain yung mga customers niyo na naghihintay ng kanilang turn na magupitan o maahitan, if that's cable TV, you have to pay for cable. Ngayon, kung yayamanin ng clientele mo and you offer free Wi-Fi, quote-unquote free, it's not really free because you'll be spending for it. You pay for the Wi-Fi. All right? Ngayon, if your partnership operates a restaurant business, hindi lang naman yan benta ng benta ng benta. Kailangan mong gumastos para bumili ng ingredients. Kailangan mong gumastos para bumili ng mga bagong kubyertos ng cutlery. Kasi minsan, di ba? Minsan, ugali ng mga ibang mga walang modo ng mga customer, especially for the yayamanin establishments, no? Iuuwi nila yung kutsara at tinidor. So, syempre, mababawasan. Di ba? Mababawasan yung naka-inventory na items, no, ng cutlery sa stock ng resto. So, you have to replenish. Kailangan mong bumili ulit. Ngayon, kung mayroong embossed na pangalan dun sa kutsara tinidor, like in some high-profile establishments, kailangan mo ring gastusan yon. Alright? Now, kung yung establishment yung nagbabayad ng uniforms ng mga empleyado, kailangan ding gastusan yon. No? If the restaurant offers Wi-Fi, then you pay for Wi-Fi. If merong cable TV, you pay for cable TV, kuryente, tubig, etc., etc. Waste disposal, mga exterminator ng mga ipis, ng mga daga, yung mga kalaban ng malilinis na restaurant. Na sa katunayan nga, di ba, ang municipal or city health office, rumoronda yan sa mga restaurant to make sure that every establishment is compliant with city or municipal health regulations. If meron yan silang makita na dumi, na insekto na hindi dapat nandun, ipis o daga, di ba? More often than not, ipasasara yung establishment. So if you're operating a restaurant, if you're a partnership operating a restaurant, you have to spend a lot. Yung kinikita, sabihin natin yung kinikita buwan-buwan, hindi yan automatic ibabato dun sa partners. You have to deduct from the gross any liabilities, any payables. O ngayong na-deducta na siya, no? All of the deductions have been made, have been done. From the gross, what do we get? The net. Yung net profit, yun lang ang mag-a-accrue sa mga partners. Now, if there is no such process in this contractual arrangement that we are seeing, kahit na may sharing pa of gross returns, there is no partnership. Bumabalik tayo doon sa ultimate purposes, no? Doon sa what exactly is it that sets partnership apart from other contracts. Business. One of the qualities of a business, not even a good business, any business, is you have to be able to sustain it. Pumapasok ka sa negosyo, hindi dahil gusto mo lang mag-operate ngayong linggo. Tapos bahala na si Lord sa mga susunod na panahon. No. You spend money, you spend time and effort on a business kasi gusto mo siyang mag-last. Something like a relationship, no? Gusto mo siyang mag-last. Therefore, kailangan lahat ng kinikita mo, ng partnership mo, ng business mo, in a set period of time, you have to budget. No? Ultimately, this is a matter of budgeting. Kailangan mo mag-deduct ng mga para sa mga babayaran for the continued existence, for the continued maintenance of the business. Because you want it to last. Kung ano yung matitira, yan yung paghahatian ninyong partners. Kapag walang ganun, pag walang ganung mechanism, there is no partnership because there is no business. All right? Now let us move forward to item 4. As opposed to the first 3 rules, ito naman, this is a presumption for the existence of a partnership. Anong sabi dito? Receipt of share in the profits amounts to strong presumptive evidence of partnership. I would like you to pay close attention to the qualifying words that we have here. Strong presumptive evidence. Strong. So pag mayroong profit sharing, which of course entails, number one, deductions. Deductions of expenses for the maintenance and upkeep of the business. So we are talking about receipt of net profits here. That's number one. That's the first implication. Number two, not just a sharing of the profits, because when you share profits, it also necessarily implies that you also share in the losses. Again, parang kasal, for richer or for poorer. Pag lugi yung business, bubuhatin yan lahat ng mga partners. That is their collective burden. Ngayon, pag maraming kinita, of course, that is their collective joy. All right? Now, that's the first qualifier, strong. Kapag mayroong profit sharing, and as a necessary consequence, again, sharing of losses, that is strong evidence of the existence, for the existence of a partnership. Now, the second qualifier, presumptive. Because sometimes profit sharing does not necessarily equate to a partnership. Now let us read here. The general rule again is that an agreement to share both profits and losses tends strongly to establish the existence of a partnership. Ngayon, kung walang profit sharing, like I mentioned during our previous rule, doon sa ating rule 3, on the other hand, tends strongly to negate. But again, sometimes profit flows in, but it doesn't mean that there is a partnership. Again, let us focus on the second qualifying word, presumptive. Presumption lang ito. And I hope you learned in your oblicon that when we say presumption, ibig sabihin ito, it can be overturned by evidence to the contrary. So here, the law, no, itong ating provision na pinag-aaralan, itong ating C-1769, it provides for a number of instances where there is profit flowing in, but not in the context of partnership. Number one, when a creditor receives payment from a debtor, or if interest accrues from a loan. Kapag ang isang taong nagpapautang ay may natanggap na kabayaran o pambayad mula sa taong may utang, that's not partnership. Not really. That is a separate contract, the contract of loan, where the obligation is to pay. Not necessarily in the context of business. All right? So that's not partnership, just loan. Second instance, when a seller receives consideration for the sale of a goodwill of a business or other property by installment or otherwise. Kapag ang isang nagtitinda ay may natanggap na bayad para sa binibentang bagay, goodwill of a business or other property. So here we are not talking about partnership. Of course, there is return of profit, there is receipt of profit kapag ikaw ay nagbebenta ng gamit o bagay. That's the point of selling. Is there a partnership? Not necessarily. No? Because here we are talking about an entirely different contract, which I hope you can still remember from your Law 102 days. Sale. Scenario number 3, when an employee receives wages. Kapag ikaw ay sumusweldo, hindi ibig sabihin nun, partner ka na nung kumpanya na pinagtatrabahuan mo. Remember when I told you about the story of Paramore? The band. Lately, medyo nagme-make waves ang Paramore ulit kasi si Hayley Williams ay kinuhang guest ni Billie Eilish sa kanyang Coachella set, which is nice. I watched snippets of it and You know the song Misery Business? There was a time when Paramore was actively touring na tinanggal nila yung kanta na yun doon sa, the usual on rotation nila ng mga kanta. Siguro kasi nananawa na rin masyado si Hailey kasi paulit-ulit. Imagine, no? They've been playing that same song every gig for years and years and years na. So medyo nanawa sila. And they stopped playing it. So this, yung sa Coachella, when Hailey sang the song alongside Billie Eilish nga, that was the first time in a very long while that they sang Misery Business live. No, medyo may hugot ako dyan because that is one of the songs of my teenage years. Anyway, bakit ko nasabi si Paramore ulit dito? Kasi di ba naalala ninyo yung kinuwento ko sa inyo before na their bassist, ex-bassist rather, si Jeremy Davis was kicked out of the band. If you ask Hailey at the time, it's because Jeremy was exhibiting bad behavior, was not complying with his duties. Now, Jeremy wanted to get his share. No? Natanggal na nga siya sa band. So, he wanted to be ensured na meron siyang makukuhang share doon sa profits ng band. Because Jeremy said, or at least Jeremy contended in court, that he is a partner. And therefore, as a partner, he has a right to the profits. Yan. However, ang sabi ni Hailey, you're not a partner, you're just an employee. Because when an employee receives wages, that's not the sharing of profits that is contemplated in a contract of partnership. Iba ang partner sa empleyado. As we will learn a bit later on, there are certain things that only a partner can do. Ang employee, nagtatrabaho ka lang. You get money in exchange for the work that you do. But you do not really get the rights, the benefits that a partner has in the context of partnership. So when an employee receives salary, receives income, we are talking there about a contract of labor or a contract of work, which is an entirely different animal from a contract of partnership. Next one, when a tenant pays rent to a landlord, hindi rin yan partnership. That is a different contract, a contract of lease. Or sometimes, though rather rarely, tinatawag siyang contract of tenancy. But yes, the official term of it in our law is lease. Kaya lessor, lessee. Now, lastly, when a widow or representative of a deceased partner receives annuities. Kasi sometimes, when a person dies, kapag miyembro siya ng, say, SSS or GSIS, the surviving relative or relatives get to receive what we call either a gratuity, sometimes they call it a pension, meron siyang nakukuhang pera, death benefits or survivorship benefits. That is not a reason to presume that there is a partnership. Kasi yun nga, receipt of annuity may not be brought about by the existence of a partnership. Nagkataon lang na yung namatay partner din sa isang partnership. Pero yung basis or yung reason for the receipt of a gratuity or annuity, hindi dahil member siya ng partnership, hindi dahil partner siya dati, but because member siya ng GSIS o di kaya ng SSS or some other social security firm or group. All right? So, hindi ibig sabihin na may nare-receive na gratuity o benefit ng isang byuda o byudo, may partnership na. No, you have to look further because the basis for the gratuity or the benefit may very well be from something else.